In this video, we are revisiting the concept of balance and what to do when we have a room that looks and feels unbalanced. When that happens, we need to first identify what it is that is making the room unbalanced. So then we know what we can do to fix that. In this first scenario, if we look at our room and we notice that there is too much of something, or maybe too little of something, or maybe a combination of both, that helps us know what we need to change. So what we would look for are things like colors. If there's too much of one color and maybe not enough of another, or lines, if everything is very vertical and there's not a lot of horizontal lines, or if there's all the same type of texture in the room, or maybe it has to do with having one type of shape or form in a room, and maybe you need to bring in some contrasting shapes and forms to add more variety. You could even be noticing if you have a lot of solid blocks of color and not enough patterns in a room. Or maybe it has to do with value. So that just means the darkness and lightness of different materials and colors. And so maybe the room is just full of very light colors and there's not a lot of darker or mid-tone tones to kind of offset that. Anything in our room where there is an unbalance, where there's too much of something and not enough of the other, it's usually just small changes that can be made to create more balance. Maybe that means moving something around or just bringing in something else to provide more contrast. And what we're trying to do when we're saying, oh, this room looks and feels off balance, is that we want to create harmony. And lots of times you can think of harmony as a combination of two things. One of them is repetition to help things feel and look cohesive. But the other part of that, so that our room is not all the same, is variety. And that means bringing in contrast. So let's take a look at some examples of where we can kind of put this into practice. In this first room, we'll notice this is a nice, beautiful, bright, calm and cozy bedroom. But one thing that I noticed right away is that everything is kind of around the same value, the same lightness. All of the fabrics and the walls and even the window coverings are in this very light value. And to me, that feels a little unbalanced, that we need something to kind of offset that just a bit. That can still be the main look and feel of that room, but we need a little bit of contrast. And one thing that that room does have going on in it that does provide some contrast is the wood on all of the furniture. So there is some contrast in there, but I feel like it needs just a bit more. So that's just where we could just update a couple things. So a couple of suggestions could be bringing in a deeper tone on a throw blanket, or maybe adding some throw pillows in some deeper colors. And even that throw pillow that is on the chair, well, maybe that could be in a deeper color and pattern. And right away, if we do that, it will just create a little bit more balance in that room. And then in this example, this is a nice, beautiful, open concept style of home where we have the living room and there's a kitchen and even dining room in the background. And it is very cohesive because there's a nice background color on the walls and ceiling and the same trim color, and even the cabinets in the kitchen are painted in that trim color. So there is a cohesiveness happening in here. And then it almost looks like the living room was where they started to bring in some contrast so that not everything is in the same tone or same value and same colors. And that is a really great start. But there seems to be an unbalance to this entire area overall. There's color in the living room, but there doesn't seem to be anything else like that in the dining room area or kitchen area. So it's creating kind of an unbalance in regards to just all of the colors on one area of that space and very little color in the other area. So what we could do to help bring some balance to this entire area is just to bring in some of those colors into the kitchen. Maybe that could be a beautiful vase in a blue or green color, or there's a nice bowl on the countertop. Maybe that could be in a nice blue or green color. Or if we have the chance, we could even switch out those bar stools to a green or blue color. And then right away, when we see those colors in the kitchen and they are repeated in the living room, we can create a better connection with those spaces. So now I want you to give this a try as well. In this kitchen and dining room area, there's a nice overall cohesive look to everything. There's a nice cohesive group of colors, neutral colors that are used in both rooms. But it's just the kitchen now that has little accent colors going on. There's nice orange and a nice kind of sage green that's going on in vases and a plate and also maybe in the tea kettle. And because we see both of these areas, we want to feel some sort of connection between the two areas, some relatability between the two areas. So it might be nice to bring in some of those fun accent colors into the dining room area. If we were just going to make a small change and just change the color of that table runner, the tablecloth on the table, to a color that relates back to one of the colors in the kitchen, which color do you prefer? Either A, in a sage green color, or B, in an orange color. So share your preference in the comments. So in that first scenario, we're just making some adjustments to maybe the amount of different types of things that are happening in a room to bring a better balance to it. But then in another scenario, if we look at a room and notice that there is an unbalanced look and feel to it because of where things are placed, and that could be the furniture layout or things on the wall, and there is a feeling that maybe there are more things on one side of the room or one area of the room compared to another, or maybe there's no organization at all. This is where we would solve this in a different way, and we would look to the interior design principle of balance to help us do that. And the interior design principle of balance provides actually frameworks for us to help us and guide us on how to organize things, how to arrange things that create a balanced look and feel. That means we can organize different items in a room, either in a symmetrically balanced way, where everything is based on a central axis, but is the same visual weight on either side of that central imaginary axis line. An asymmetrically balanced way, that means we still have that imaginary center axis line, but the elements are dispersed differently, and the visual weight is not necessarily going to be placed in the exact same spots on either side as they would be in symmetrical balance, or even a radial balanced way. That just means everything is revolving around a central point. So let's take a look at an example where we can practice this. So in this dining room, we'll notice that the dining room table is centered under the chandelier, which is centered in that dining room, and there's an area rug centered under the table. And that's a really good thing because that's the focal area of that dining room. But the rest of the room is just kind of empty. Well, this is where we would want to think about maybe placing some furniture on the perimeter of the room, or artwork on the wall, or even window coverings. And when we think of that room overall, just to kind of help bring a nice balance to the entire space, that will help it look and feel much more cohesive and much more balanced. And then in this example of a living room, we'll see that there seems to be no rhyme or reason for the placement of the furniture and other items in this room. They're almost just kind of placed in there, almost in a temporary sort of fashion. So now we can use the principle of symmetrical balance and even asymmetrical balance to help us arrange and group those items so that everything looks and feels organized and structured. So let's just take a look at this living room in a floor plan view and work on organizing and arranging the living room furniture in a balanced way. So first thing that we could think about doing is just using symmetrical balance. And that would mean centering that area rug in front of this window. Then we could place a sofa centered on that area rug, centered on that window, then place end tables on either side. And then if we had a coffee table, we could place that centered in front of the sofa. And right away, that entire arrangement is symmetrically balanced. Then we have this fun slipper chair that we could place on this one side. But what we have going on now is asymmetrical balance. So if we draw a line down the center of that entire arrangement, we'll notice there's more visual weight on one side. Well, one thought that I had to kind of help counterbalance that is to create a fun window seat area on this side of the room. And then that way we could bring some more visual weight to that side. And we could finish out that room by placing the plant and then place some lighting in that living room area. So now that arrangement is organized in a balanced way, and that will help to bring more cohesiveness to that entire space. So I would love for you to take a moment in your busy week and do a room audit where you can check to see if a room looks and feels unbalanced. If it does look and feel unbalanced, see if you can identify what may be causing that. Is it too much of something or not enough of something? Or is it where groups of items need to be organized in a more balanced way? So share what you noticed and what you did to kind of refresh things and help things look better. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time when we discover more neat things about interior design. Take care.